All right, everybody, this is it, the research paper explainer. We're going to take our time with this, and you're going to email me or call me if you have questions, okay? If you just do what I'm asking you to do here, no more, don't try to get cute with it, you're going to be fine. I promise. So, it's 7 to 8 pages, and then the works cited page. It's due Wednesday the 5th at noon. So you're going to email your paper to my school address. Remember, only .doc and PDF files. Prompt. Based on your reading of Gold Boy, Emerald Girl, the collection of Yi Yun Lee short stories. And blankets. Prove that Yi Yun Lee is better than Craig Thompson at two of the following. Or prove that Craig Thompson is better than Yi Yun Lee at two of the following. Developing three-dimensional protagonists, developing three-dimensional antagonists, using a reliable narrator or using an unreliable narrator, using symbols, simile, or metaphor to add meaning to a story, or offering clear epiphanies that make sense. Now remember, protagonist is the character in the story for whom we clearly are supposed to root for. Okay, the author is clearly wanting us to root for that character. Antagonist is the chief character working against the protagonist. Now, what does it mean to be three-dimensional? These characters are more than types. Okay, but here are three things they do have: clear motives, clear strengths, clear weaknesses. A good protagonist, a good antagonist that is three-dimensional has a clear motive. We know exactly what they want out of the story. Clear strengths. There are things about them that are good, that are likable, that make them worthy people. They have weaknesses. Three things that make them human somehow, that make them weak and mortal, just like the rest of us. Okay, a reliable narrator is a narrator you can trust. Their information is reliable, it makes sense. You don't have to guess too much about what the author is trying to do with that narrator and whether or not you should believe them. A reliable or an unreliable narrator, you read their work, you see what they say, and you just don't buy it. Or you read them and you read the data that the narrator offers, and you decide for yourself, I have to do sort of my own interpretation of what that narrator is saying to figure out what this story means. Symbols, simile, metaphor to add meaning to a story. Symbol is literally an object that seems to represent something else. It's not stated directly what it's meant to represent, but if a character in a story is a 33-year-old carpenter from Jerusalem, he might be a symbol for Jesus Christ, right? Simile is when you state that something is like or as something else. A metaphor is when you say something, one object is another object. So, do they use those? Offering clear epiphanies that make sense. So by the end of the story, or somewhere in the story, sometimes it's closer to the middle, a character will have a realization that is made very clear to everybody involved, the reader, the characters, and the writer, and they make sense. They seem to add to the story or to your understanding. So just two of these things. Who's better, Yi Yun Lee or Craig Thompson? How to build this paper. First of all, remember this. It's just an essay with more sources than you're used to working with. That's it. Also, your tone has to be diplomatic, and you avoid the first person. That's it. And from now on, you basically will avoid the first person in college writing unless you are otherwise directed to use first person. Number two, in the introduction, use an outside source related to the topic. Look for an interview with either Yi or Thompson. Make sure the writer discusses one or more of the craft-related elements listed above, Look to their websites for their thoughts on these topics, or sometimes they have blog posts where they'll be writing things, or search the Napa Valley College Library databases to find a scholarly article on either Yee or Thompson's work. Okay, just one to sort of anchor it. Give me a clear thesis that does not deviate from the assigned prompt. Use half of the body to prove your points about Yee. Do so by analyzing quotes from 2 of her stories in Gold Boy, Emerald Girl. You are not going to get bonus points if you use the 2 biggest stories. Okay? Use the stories you know you can manage really well. Okay. They're all really good. I'm rereading the book this week just because, and man, do you have a lot to work with. Use the other half of the body to prove your points about Thompson, doing the same thing. But do what you did with Essay 3. You're going to analyze the imagery and the actual dialogue or quotes from blankets. Okay? That should be italicized. Use no more than 3 pages from the graphic novel. Or 3 images, Use no more than 3 images from the graphic novel, and each image should take up no more than half a page. Before analyzing each story that you're going to use by Yee or blankets, what's with the italics, Patrick? Summarize them. So in your summaries, include language from one professional review of the book in question. So as you're actually summarizing the stories from Yee, okay, and blankets, what you want to do is use some language about the book from a book review on that book. Okay. Close by answering the question, so what? Think about how writing the research paper made you see literature differently, or how doing so confirmed an idea you already had about literature. It doesn't need to be an earth-shaking revelation. You don't need to announce that you're switching your major, joining the Navy, or becoming a different religion. It simply needs to be thoughtful, interesting, and clearly connected to your analysis. These are the required elements. Okay. Grading rubric. Effort. Okay, this is a research paper and it's a summer and I know it's hard. I'm going to give you 10 points just for clearly producing something that you worked hard on, that you obviously worked hard on. Did you clearly avoid starting at the last minute? Did you avoid rambling to simply fill up space? Do you stay on topic? Do you use all the types of required elements? If you do that, you get 10 points. If you're just putting words on a page and cutting and pasting stuff, you're not going to get all the points, and you'll know who you are. I know who you are already. Argument. Does your paper feature a thoughtful introduction, a clear thesis, summaries of the short stories in question, and blankets? Does your analysis make sense? Big. It all has to make sense. Do you clearly introduce all quotes and images? Do you clearly analyze all quotes and images? Okay. Sometimes that takes more time, sometimes that takes less time, depending on what you're showing. Does your conclusion answer the question, so what? And is it organized clearly and logically? So just write the paper and try hard, and you should get close to 60. MLA has got to be perfect. Sentences have to be excellent. Timeline. Conferences next week. Or this week. Yeah. Conferences this week. The first, at 10 p.m., all of your comp class quizzes need to be done. Next week, if we need them, we're going to have follow-up conferences. So if you want to meet with me, if you want me to read a draft next weekend sometime, or around a week from today, that's cool too. We can do that. Wednesday the 5th, that research paper is due. You're going to feel so good. And then we're going to have that virtual final on the 6th, where I'm going to send you guys on the morning of the 6th, I'm going to send you a prompt and maybe a related reading. You have to write an essay in response to it, and it's due by 9 p.m. that night. If you've been doing all of your work in this class, it is not going to be a difficult final. I promise. I promise you. 2 more notes on sources. Avoid Spark Notes, please. Avoid Cliff's Notes. Avoid eHow. Avoid brainy quotes. You don't need that crap. It's crap. Okay? And even if you can get a good plot analysis out of SparkNotes or CliffNotes, it doesn't give you the actual language that you will need to develop your paper. So don't do it. Just do the work. You'll be fine. And if you cite SparkNotes or a similar website, I'm reducing your research paper's grade by 5 points. Okay? Wikipedia is a fine place to look for sources, like Google Scholar, right? More importantly, make sure you can try to get through some databases through the college. At the end of each Wikipedia entry, look for the outside sources that editors use to develop those entries. But don't cite Wikipedia. If you do, I will reduce your research paper's grade by 5 points. But as always, you know me, I want you to succeed, so please ask me questions. Many of you are. For summer, for online, you folks have been very good in terms of staying engaged in the course. Going to conferences virtually, asking me questions outside of those. So just keep doing what you're doing. All right, folks, that's it. See ya. Talk soon.